Kevin Durant's NBA 2K27 rating has players talking after the game ranked 6 players above him from mid-range. For someone who has dominated that part of the court for nearly 2 decades, the list caught plenty of people off guard, and everyone seems to have an opinion. Let me break it down. Let's get straight into it. On a Thursday in early August, NBA 2K posted its top 10 mid-range shooters for NBA 2K27, calling them the chairman of the MIDI committee. It's a fun name for a list. That turned out to be anything but fun for one guy on it. Starting from the leader, the list consists of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 99, Nikola Jokic at 98, Kyrie Irving at 98, Trey Johnson at 98, Jalen Brunson at 97, Cade Cunningham at 97, Kevin Durant at 97, Brandon Ingram at 96, Damian Lillard at 95, and DeMar DeRozan at 95. Read that again. Durant, a guy who's been called the best pure scorer of his generation, landed in a 3-way tie for 5th, which on the graphic itself reads as 7th overall. Once you count the ties above him, he saw it, and he reacted almost immediately. In a post on Instagram Threads, Durant gave a candid reaction to his 97 rating, writing Ronnie 2K. 2K as a company, I am triggered, 97 MIDI, short, direct, no punctuation cleanup, just pure disbelief typed out in real time. Now here's where it gets interesting, because Durant didn't just vent into the void. He called out a specific name, Ronnie Singh, better known across the gaming world as Ronnie 2K, the digital marketing director who's become the public face of the franchise's rating decisions. And Ronnie 2K didn't sit back and take it quietly either. He clapped right back at Durant on social media, joking about fixing the trigger with a laughing emoji, tagging Durant directly. It was quick, it was public, and it was exactly the kind of exchange that gets an entire fan base piling on within minutes. That back and forth is really the heart of this story. Two sides both dug in, Durant convinced he's being shortchanged, and the company behind the game treating the whole thing as just another year of noise. Because here's the thing nobody's saying loud enough, this isn't new for Durant. Durant has actually been a 97 in the mid-range in the last 5 editions of the game. So this is not new, though it appears to be his first time taking note of it. 5 straight years at the exact same number, and it took until year 6 for him to notice and say something about it publicly. So who exactly is standing above him on this list? And are those players even reacting to the fact that Durant is now gunning for their spot? Let's start at the top. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sits alone at 99 untouched, and nobody's really arguing with that one. Not even Durant, who seems to accept SGA's spot at the summit. It's everybody below SGA that's got Durant's attention. Right under Shai, tied at 98, you've got Nikola Jokic, Kyrie Irving, and rookie sensation Trey Johnson. 3 names, 3 completely different stories, and 3 names Durant clearly feels shouldn't all be ranked ahead of him. Then right at his own tier, tied with him at 97, sit Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham, 2 guards who Durant has publicly been compared to now for the first time in his career, at age 37, in a category he's owned since he was in his early 20s. This is the part that stings the most for Durant. If you think about it, it's not that he dropped in the rankings from some historic high. He's been sitting at 97 for half a decade without complaint. It's that the players circling around him this year are guys either coming off injury, playing limited minutes, or in Trey Johnson's case, a rookie who hadn't even played a full season yet. That's the spark. That's why this list, out of every list 2K has dropped this preseason, is the one that lit the fuse. And the numbers Durant is leaning on to make his case are real. Durant shot 48.2% from mid-range on 5.4 attempts per game last season, and from a macro perspective, the 37-year-old Houston Rockets star finished behind only Jaylen Brown and Gilgeous-Alexander in field goals made. He's not manufacturing this frustration out of thin air. There's a statistical argument sitting right behind his complaint, and it's strong enough that even some of the outlets covering this story sided with him. The 37-year-old was definitely one of the best in the business from the mid-range last season. Durant shot 48.2% from mid-range on 5.4 attempts per game in 2025-26, which ranked 3rd among players who attempted at least 3.0 per game. 3rd in the league. Not 7th, 3rd. That gap between where the analytics put him and where the game rated him is exactly what turned a routine ratings reveal into a full-blown public spat. But to understand why Durant is so locked in on this one specific number, the mid-range rating, not his overall, not his three-point shot, not his defense, you have to go back further than this week. You have to understand what the mid-range game has meant to his entire career. and why a company sticking him at the same number for 5 straight years finally broke the dam. To get why this particular rating cut so deep, you need to understand what the mid-range shot represents. For Kevin Durant specifically, this isn't a guy who backs into the paint and muscles up a shot. This isn't a guy who lives beyond the arc waiting for a catch-and-shoot look. Durant's whole offensive identity, going back to his days in Oklahoma City, has been built on one shot: the pull-up, fadeaway, off-the-dribble mid-range jumper that almost nobody in the sport's history has been able to guard consistently. At 6'11" with a wingspan that lets him shoot over just about anyone, Durant turned the mid-range into a weapon that broke defenses for nearly 2 decades. So in a video game, a game he's played and cared about for years, puts a number on that exact skill, and it doesn't match what he sees when he watches himself play. It's personal in a way that an overall rating complaint just isn't. And Durant's beef with 2K over ratings isn't some one-time flare-up. It's basically become an annual tradition at this point, and it's worth walking through the pattern, because it tells you exactly why this year hit different. Go back to 2022. NBA 2K ratings came out, and Brooklyn Nets superstar Kevin Durant was none too pleased about his rating. After Durant saw his NBA 2K rating was 96, he called out Ronnie, asking for an explanation regarding what he believed was a laughable rating. He posted directly at Ronnie 2K asking for an explanation on why he wasn't a 99. That's the same energy, the same target 4 years before this current blow-up. What happened next in 2022 is instructive too, because it shows this isn't just a company versus player thing. It's also a fan base thing. Boston Celtics fans wasted no time roasting Durant after he complained about his 2K rating, primarily using his most recent playoff performance to explain why he got the rating he did. One fan replied to Durant's tweet with a picture of Jason Tatum blocking one of Durant's shots during the Celtics-Nets playoff matchup, and others pointed out that a player with a 99 rating would not have suffered the same fate. Rival fan bases have learned that Durant complaining about his rating is basically an invitation to pull up old playoff clips, fast forward through the years, and the pattern just repeats itself, with different numbers attached. He was given a 94 in NBA 2K25 and was not happy about it. If we go back to 2022, Durant called out 2K and Ronnie for his not being a 99 in NBA 2K23. He was a 96 then, but it wasn't good enough for him. 96 wasn't enough. 94 wasn't enough. And this year, even sitting at that same 97 mid-range number, he's held for 5 straight editions. It suddenly wasn't enough either, probably because this time, the list put faces and names right next to his, making the comparison impossible to ignore. There's also a bigger picture number worth knowing here, because it puts some scale on exactly who Durant was calling out. He made sure the $46.3 billion company heard his disappointment. This isn't some small indie studio he's ribbing. This is one of the biggest entertainment properties in gaming. And Durant, a guy worth hundreds of millions himself, is going toe-to-toe with their marketing arm over a single attribute number, year after year like clockwork. So what does Ronnie 2K actually do with all of this? Because here's the fascinating part. He doesn't panic, and he doesn't cave. At this point, Singh and the game developers are used to negative feedback from the players. Frankly, it is probably good promotion for the game, which remains hugely popular, among fans and players alike anyway. That's the business reality sitting underneath all of this drama. Every time a superstar gets loud about a number, it turns into free marketing. Ronnie 2K knows it. The company knows it. And honestly, at this point, players probably know it too, but that doesn't stop them from going off anyway, when they see a number that doesn't match how they see themselves. That's really the psychology at play here. Durant isn't just annoyed about a number on a screen. He's annoyed that a public list, seen by millions of people who play this game every single year, ranked him below guys he genuinely believes he's better than, in the exact category the list was measuring. And when you're 37 years old, in your 18th season, still putting up historic efficiency numbers, being told by a video game that you're not even top 5 in your signature skill, that's the kind of thing that gets under the skin of even the most accomplished players in the sport. Now let's actually dig into the names above him. Because the real controversy isn't Durant at 97, it's who's sitting at 98 and whether those players have any business being there over him. This is where the story really opens up, because once you start comparing actual on-court production to where 2K placed everybody on this list, some of it stops making sense fast. Let's start with the reigning MVP, because there's zero controversy here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander sits alone at 99, and the stats back it up completely. The only players ahead of Durant in mid-range shooting percentage were Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 54.9% from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Jalen Brunson at 50.2% from the New York Knicks. Nobody's arguing that one. SGA earned his spot, and even Durant's frustration doesn't extend to the guy at the very top. Now here's where it gets messy. Right below SGA, tied at 98, sits Nikola Jokic. On the surface, that looks outrageous. The Joker is a center. Not exactly the archetype you picture dominating from 18 feet, but the numbers actually support it more than you think. Jokic shot an absurd 55.9% from mid-range last season. The Denver Nuggets superstar only attempted 1.8 per game though. The volume wasn't there, but when Jokic attempted them, he usually connected. So Jokic's rating is built on pure efficiency over a tiny sample size, which is a very different case than Durant's, who's shooting nearly 3 times as many mid-range shots a game at a slightly lower clip. That's actually the crux of the entire argument that's playing out across NBA Twitter and every sports comment section right now. Volume versus efficiency. Should a guy who hits 56% on fewer than 2 attempts a night rank above a guy hitting 48% on over 5 attempts a night? Different analysts are landing in different places on that question, and it's exactly the kind of debate that keeps a story like this alive for days instead of hours. Then there's Kyrie Irving at 98, and this is the one that's drawn the most side eye from people actually paying attention to who played last season and who didn't. Irving missed the whole of last season for the Dallas Mavericks as he was recovering from a torn ACL. If you go back to 2024-25, he shot 40.8% from the mid-range, which isn't quite elite. So Irving probably should drop a little bit. A guy who didn't play a single game last season, sitting 2 full points above a guy who just finished 3rd in the entire league in mid-range efficiency. That's the specific comparison that's fueled a lot of the outrage bubbling up around this list, and it's hard to argue with the logic. Ratings are supposed to reflect what you just did on a basketball court, and Irving simply didn't get the chance to do anything last year. And then there's the name causing the most conversation of all, Trey Johnson, a rookie out of Washington, tied at 98 right alongside Jokic and Irving. This one genuinely surprised people across the industry. Trey Johnson, the Wizards rookie, cracking a 98 rating in a category usually dominated by proven veterans, is an early signal that 2K sees serious scoring polish in his game right out of the gate. A first-year player getting placed above a 19-year veteran with multiple championships, and a scoring title resume that spans 2 decades. On paper, it sounds absurd, but dig into what Johnson actually did as a rookie, and the numbers get a lot more interesting than you'd expect. Johnson actually had a slightly better mid-range field goal percentage than Durant last season at 49.5%. Like Jokic, the Washington Wizards guard only attempted 1.9 per game in his rookie campaign, with Durant's volume being much higher than Johnson's and his percentage just a tick lower. You can definitely make a case that the veteran should be above the youngster. So even the outlets covering this straight down the middle are basically agreeing with Durant here. The volume he's carrying at 37 years old should count for something when a rookie shooting almost 2 fewer attempts a night gets ranked above him. And then rounding out his own tier, tied right alongside him at 97, are Jalen Brunson and Cade Cunningham. 2 guards in the prime of their careers, both all-star caliber, both younger than Durant by well over a decade. Brunson's case is airtight based on the raw numbers, sitting at 50.2% shooting from mid-range, the second best mark in the league behind only SGA. Cunningham's inclusion is a little softer statistically, but nobody's really contesting his spot the way they are Irving's or Johnson's. Put it all together, and here's the actual mathematical case that a lot of analysts landed on after digging through this list. Durant probably should be bumped up to 98, along with Brunson. They both can't get a 99 though, as Gilgeous-Alexander deserves to stand alone at the top. That's not Durant's opinion. That's the conclusion multiple outlets reached independently. After running the actual efficiency and volume numbers side by side, Durant genuinely has a case for 98. He just didn't get it. So now the question becomes bigger than one list. If Durant's mid-range number is drawing this much scrutiny, what does it mean for the number everybody actually cares about? His overall rating. Because that reveal was still coming, and given everything that had already played out, nobody expected it to go smoothly either. While the mid-range list was still generating headlines, the bigger question hanging over the whole rollout was Durant's overall rating, the number that actually determines how he plays in the game across every mode, not just one shot category. The early word wasn't promising for anyone hoping Durant would get bumped up after his complaint. On the other hand, Durant entered NBA 2K26 with a 93 overall rating, and those numbers could easily repeat. The 37-year-old averaged 26.0 points, 5.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 0.8 steals, and 0.9 blocks per game with the Rockets in the 2025-26 season. Those numbers undoubtedly look elite. However, a performance drop compared to his production. In the 2024-25 season, an unavailability for the playoffs against the Los Angeles Lakers in 2026 might affect the ratings. And that's exactly how it landed. Once the full launch ratings dropped on NBA 2K27, the current version of Kevin Durant has an overall 2K rating of 93 with a crafty walking bucket build. Same number as the year before. No bump despite the mid-range complaint. No drop despite the playoff absence. Just a flat hold at 93, which for a guy chasing 99 for years now, probably stings just as much as the mid-range snub did. Dig into the attribute breakdown and you start to see where Durant's overall number is actually strong and where it's dragging. The best aspect of Durant's game on 2K is his outside scoring. With an exceptional 98 close shot rating, he consistently drains his shots when shooting the ball close to the basket. On top of this, his 92 three-point shot rating makes him a more dangerous offensive player when launching from downtown. So it's not that the game doesn't respect his scoring. It clearly does, spreading elite numbers across close shot, three-point range, and mid-range alike. It's the ceiling on all of it that's the sticking point. 93 overall, when his individual scoring attributes are sitting in the high 90s across the board, tells you the drag is coming from somewhere else entirely. Likely his age-adjusted athleticism and defensive marks, categories that naturally decline as a player edges deeper into his late 30s. And here's a detail that actually strengthens Durant's frustration rather than undercutting it: the disconnect between his current rating and how the game remembers him at his absolute peak. Look at his all-time Golden State version, the one built to represent him during the championship runs. That all-time version carries a three-point shot of 95, mid-range shot of 98, close shot of 98, and a shot IQ of 99. 2 full points higher in mid-range than his current self. Even though by his own statistical case this season, present-day Durant is shooting it just as well, if not better in some efficiency categories. That's the kind of side-by-side comparison that fuels exactly the kind of frustration Durant put on display this week. The game literally has a version of him rated higher in his signature shot, just not the version that's actually walking onto the court right now. Meanwhile, all of this is unfolding against the backdrop of a Houston Rockets team trying to build real contender status around Durant heading into this season. The full-strength Rockets lineup is projected to be Durant, Van Vliet, Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson, and Jabari Smith Jr., and with 4-time MVP LeBron James signing with the Philadelphia 76ers this summer, there is an argument that the Rockets could eclipse the 4th seed Lakers next season. That context matters here, because it's not like Durant is a fading star clinging to old glory. While complaining about pixels on a screen, he's still the guy Houston is building its entire offense around, still an all-NBA level scorer, and the team around him is being talked about as a legitimate threat to climb the Western Conference standings. Still being one of the league's top shooters, leading Houston with 26.0 points per game over 78 games. Durant earned an All-NBA second-team selection for the 2025-26 season. It was his second selection in the last 3 years. That's not a player in decline. That's a player still performing at an All-NBA level deep into his late 30s, which is exactly why the 93 overall, flat, unchanged, unmoved by his complaints, feels like such a sore spot heading into a season where Houston genuinely believes it can compete at the top of the West. And the roster context around him only sharpens the debate on the mid-range list too. Although Durant is in the later half of his NBA career, he proved himself to be one of the league's current premier players in his 18th year. This offensive prowess should continue to make Durant one of Houston's most important pieces heading into the upcoming season. Houston isn't just keeping him around out of loyalty. He's still the single most important offensive weapon on a team with legitimate playoff ambitions, which is exactly why a public snub on a shot category he's built his entire career around lands as more than just an internet argument. It's a real statement about how the outside world currently values him relative to his peers. So where does all of this actually leave Durant? The list and the ongoing back and forth with the company that's been rating him for nearly 2 decades now. That's where we land next. Here's where things stand as NBA 2K27 heads toward its September release. Durant's public complaint didn't move the number. His mid-range rating held at 97, his overall held at 93, and Ronnie 2K's response made it pretty clear the company isn't in the business of adjusting ratings because a star player posts his frustration on social media. That's not new. It's the same pattern that's played out every single year Durant has raised his voice about a number, going back to that 96 rating fight years ago. What is new is the scale of the reaction this time, because this wasn't just Durant venting into a void. This was a list with 10 names on it, several of which had legitimate statistical arguments questioning their placement, turning into a week-long conversation across basketball media about who actually deserves credit for one of the hardest shots in the sport. Brunson's case held up. Johnson's case surprisingly held up too, once people actually looked at his efficiency as a rookie. Irving's case was the shakiest of the bunch, resting almost entirely on reputation from a season he didn't even play. And Jokic's spot, while unconventional for a center, was backed by an efficiency number that's genuinely hard to argue against even at low volume. Durant's argument, when you strip away the frustration and just look at the shooting numbers, was never baseless. Durant shot 48.2% from mid-range on 5.4 attempts per game in 2025-26, which ranked third among players who attempted at least 3.0 per game. Third in the entire league, at volume at age 37. That's the kind of production that should, by most reasonable standards, place him closer to the very top of a list built specifically to measure exactly that skill. But ratings in a video game have never purely been about hard statistics. They're part reputation, part recent form, part what a panel of designers decided. They wanted a player's badges and hot zones to look like heading into a new season. And every year, that gap between what the stat sheet says and what the game says creates exactly the kind of moment Durant found himself in this week. Publicly frustrated, publicly ignored, and publicly mocked by the very company whose game he's still going to buy, still going to play, and still going to complain about again next year when the next list drops. For now, the story ends where it started, with a 97 that Durant believes should be a 98, a company that isn't budging, and a list of names above him that will keep getting picked apart online, right up until the game actually launches and players get to see these ratings play out on a virtual court instead of a graphic. Whether Durant's actual in-game jumper ends up feeling as automatic as his real one did last season is the argument that's really going to settle this. Not another post on Threads, and not another joke from Ronnie 2K. Just the shot itself, the same one that's carried his career for 19 years, now waiting to be judged one more time by everyone who picks up a controller in September.